So if you don't mind telling me your name, your date of birth, and where you were born.
My name is Jane Reid Lambert, and I was born in Lawrence County, and my birthday is March the 26th, 1940.
What did your parents do for a living?
Well, my mother was a stay-at-home mom, and Dad was he fished some, and he was a logger, and he farmed, and then he was county supervisor for 24 years, and then he had cattle.
Tell me about how church was important to you growing up.
Well, church was very important to me growing up because my mother and my daddy, it was very important to them. And so we grew up, well, church was necessary, and it was made primary, the primary thing at home like that. And it was a lot of fun. It was social life too, and we would go and we would have, as we call protracted meetings, and I would get a new dress and a new pair of shoes, and church was always in my life and in my parents' life, and it's just very important.
Can you tell me about the house that you grew up in?
Okay, I grew up, it was a wood house. It was, Daddy had added on a little bit for the kitchen, and I remember Sadie's 7 years older than I am, so some of these things happened after she left, but I remember our first bathroom was put in the house at the end of the hall, and then Mama got a gas stove instead of a wood stove. And I remember when I came home from school that day, she was standing at the door crying almost. She was scared to death of that stove, afraid it was going to blow up. So we just had a wonderful time at home. It didn't matter that it was not the finest house, but it was a lot of love there.
So was there ever a time when money was tight?
Well, Casey, if it was, I don't know it, because Mother and Daddy did not discuss things around us. They did what they had to do, and we always had plenty to eat. We were always warm, and can't say we were always cool, but I don't know if it was ever tight, but I'm sure that it was.
What were some of the things that you remember doing as a family together?
Well, going to church together, and Sadie said, but I remember going to Columbia to Aunt Agnes's and Aunt Eunice's, and we would go down the Red Bluff Road, and we only had a log truck, and a couple of times we got stuck and had to get pulled out and come back home. And then when I had two little boys, and Daddy would take us to Halls Creek sometimes, the whole family, and I would about drown my children, so Daddy would bring us back to the house. But we just did a lot of, being at home with them was fun.
What are some of the foods that you remember from your childhood?
I have to do a little repeating. It's going to be Elisha tea cakes and macaroni soup. We would be out cleaning the yard, and it would be cold, and we'd come in, and that was so good. And Mama's going out and picking berries and coming back home and making cobblers.
What are some of your favorite memories of Christmas with your family?
Christmas? Well, I can't quite, I just remember going out and whatever was there, and like Santa Claus had come, and it was just a lovely time, and we would go to, I remember we most always went to Granny Fanny's, and we, all us cousins would get together and do a lot of talking that we shouldn't have probably, but I enjoyed Christmas, whatever it was. I remember one time I wanted an opal ring, and instead I got a cameo, but that was fine. And Mother and Daddy tried to make Christmas the best they could for us.
What would you like to say about the community that you grew up in?
Oh, Robinwood's just, I don't know why everybody wouldn't want to live in Robinwood. It's just, I moved away for a few years, and the greatest thing I ever did was move back to Robinwood, and we built a home down there, and then when Daddy died, we moved in with Mother. But we got Tom and Carol Case, and who wouldn't want to be in the community with Tom and Carol, and Sadie and Hunter were there, and Uncle Jay and Aunt Josie and our cousins, and it's just a wonderful place to be. And she said, if you want to be where Jesus is coming back first, come on down.
What was going to town like for you growing up?
Oh, it was wonderful. It was, we would go to town and we would park on the side in town on the side of the road there. We'd sit in the car and watch people walk up and down the street and talk about them. But when I was little, we would come and Daddy and Mama would give me, I think it was 50 cents, and a quarter would get me in the movie, and a quarter would buy me a drink and something to eat with it. And I would stay in the movie most of the afternoon while they shopped, and then we would eat out at night at Joe Spikes' Cafe, have hot roast beef sandwiches.
Can you tell me about what school was like for you?
I thoroughly enjoyed school. I went to school at Lawrence County School from elementary on up. I graduated, and I thoroughly enjoyed school. I have had no problems with it, and had a lot of friends, and it was wonderful.
What did you and your friends do in your spare time outside of school?
Well, we didn't live close together, so it was hard back then, like, to get together. But one thing Jolene McLeod and I did, she's got her driver's license before I did, but I learned to drive, and so we would make up on the school bus something we had to come back to town for. And so when Daddy would come home, I would tell Daddy, and so Daddy would let me drive to her house, and then she'd drive on to town. Of course, I lied. But anyway, we had a good time doing it.
What did you do after finishing school?
Well, I married even before I finished, and I became a mother, and I stayed at home for a while until Ted decided to go back to school, and then I had to go to work. But I enjoyed being at home.
Can you talk a little bit about your husband, Ted?
Well, Ted was a little bit different person, and he was a little hard-headed, but he was a good man, and he was elected to the House of Representatives and served 2 terms, and he really enjoyed it, and I learned a lot, and he was a restless man. He was out of one thing into something else, and he was killed in 1991 in a car wreck. But basically, I think he enjoyed life up to then, and he loved his boys, and he'd always wanted a daughter, so we had a little granddaughter during that time, and she could do no wrong, and anything she wanted or whatever, he loved her beyond reason. So, but he was okay.
What have been some of the most important places in Lawrence County to you?
Important places? Well, I just came from important places in Lawrence County. Wherever I was, I guess, wherever I went in Lawrence County, we had a first cafe that we would gather at, and that was just when Elvis was getting popular. And I think "Don't Be Cruel" was the song, and we would try to do a little dancing up there, and she had to make us stop because of running the floor. And we enjoyed that, and I just enjoyed anywhere in Lawrence County that I went. I enjoyed that. Ted was basically from down at Topeka, Tilton, and enjoyed going down there and to church down there. And so it was just a lot of places.
How would you say Lawrence County has changed since you were young?
Well, I'm sure it's changed a lot, but I don't notice the change, I don't think. I just still see it as it was. As I said, we moved away for a little while and we came back, and I was so glad to get back to Lawrence County. I felt like I could turn my boys loose, that we felt safe here to let them go to town or do what they wanted to. But I know it's changed because we had a lot more stores, and we do miss the stores and things like that, but it's a wonderful county, and I love being here, and I hope it gets better again.
Do you remember the first time that you interacted with a television set or a computer?
Well, I do. Television, we didn't have a television set. Daddy hadn't bought one yet, and Mama's brother, Uncle Joel Madalou, had bought one. So when we'd come up this way, Daddy would we would all stop there, and they would let me watch their television, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Now, computer, I didn't ever want to see a computer, but I worked at Bethel, and I got used to working on it. And when I had a little health problems, and I'd been home maybe a couple of months, and Chuck came in with me a computer, and he said, "You're going to work this computer to give you something to do." Well, I talked to Ugly and did a few more things, but I can't do without it now. If it goes down, I'm cussing or something. I'm calling the repairman or somebody, and so I thoroughly enjoy it. I can't get Sadie to do anything on it. So I'm going to teach her before I die.
What would you say is your best piece of advice?
Well, my best piece of advice was to take life as it comes, life at it, and love others, and make the most out of everything that God gives you. That I tried not to at one time when I first got sick, and then I decided that would be a lot better if I did. And He was so good to me, and it's blessed me in so many ways. So that was my advice, is look to your Lord and have a good time.